Hello, welcome back to Technician's Toolbox. In this episode, we are going to take you through the diagnosis and repairs that were performed on a 2004 Chevy K2500 with the LLY Duramax engine. The point of this case study is that even if you are a drivability technician and not a diesel tech, with the use of a scan tool, basic diagnostic theories, and possibly the help of a TSB, you can successfully diagnose and repair these trucks. This truck belongs to a farmer who says he'd sooner give up his right hand than be without this truck. Pretty serious, isn't he? The owner stated that as he was driving down the road, all of a sudden the mill came on and the truck went into limp-in mode. He pulled over to the side of the road, shut it off for a minute, and then restarted the truck. It ran fine for a few minutes, then went back into limp-in mode again, so he had it towed to the shop. As the tech walked out to the truck with his Tech 2, he retrieved diagnostic trouble codes P0207, injector 7 control circuit, and P2146, injector positive voltage control circuit group 1. As the tech went to bring the truck into the shop, it would only run on 4 cylinders. He had to hold the pedal to the floor to bring it up to 900 RPM so he could get it in. Once in the shop, he opened the hood and performed a visual inspection of the engine area. He noticed that someone had previously replaced the pigtail connector on the number 7 injector. He decided to look up the DTC definitions and code setting criteria and see if there were any TSBs that would be of assistance. Service information tells us that this code is set if the fuel injector control module, FICM for short, detects incorrect current on number 7 injector for less than 1 second. When this condition is detected, the FICM will shut down the supply voltage to all the injectors on the affected group and a P2146 will be set. In this case, injectors 1, 4, 6, and 7 will be affected. An important fact to remember on the Duramax engines is that number 1, 3, 5, and 7 cylinders are on the passenger side, and the 2, 4, 6, and 8 cylinders are on the driver's side, the opposite of the gas engines. This time the FICM is shutting down the outside cylinders on bank 1 and the center cylinders for bank 2 to maintain balance. The description for code P2146 reinforces this. Fortunately, he found a TSB pertaining to this engine as well. TSB describes the exact situation he's experiencing for this truck. It looks as if someone has already attempted this repair at one point, but there are no brackets to support the harness, so it's possible the wiring may have failed again. Next, he pulls up a wiring diagram so he can find the wires for number 7 injector at the FICM. He could have easily back probed at the injector, but he didn't want to disturb the wiring there and temporarily correct the problem by back probing. Schematic shows that the power supply is the orange wire on pin 3 of connector 1 at the FICM. The control side of the circuit is the white with red wire at pins 61 and 62 of the FICM. He carefully back probes the wires to FICM and starts the engine up with his lab scope connected. He gets a flat line of 0 volts since the FICM was shut down to bank because of the circuit failure. Next, he disconnects connector 1 of the FICM and ohms out the injector and circuit. As the photo shows, this circuit was reading completely open. By simply touching the connector at the injector, he was able to regain continuity. The test confirmed that the TSB was correct and that he would need to replace the pigtail and install the support brackets. Customer approved the repair and the service kit was ordered. The kit contains the pigtails for number 7 and 2 injectors, support brackets, and heat shrink connectors required to do the job. Following the instructions, he removes the fuel filter housing mounting bolt, installs a new bracket, cuts off the old pigtail, splices in the new pigtail, and heat shrinks the connectors. He routes the wiring and fastens it to the bracket, reinstalls the filter housing, and reassembles the other stuff he had to remove. The gratifying part of the job was when he turned the key and the truck started and ran on all 8 cylinders. Here's the injector pattern that he captured after the repairs were performed. Notice the amount of voltage through the injector and the presence of the pilot injection. He then followed the instructions and performed the repairs for the number 2 harness, which is also relatively straightforward. After the repairs, he drove the truck for several miles and verified it ran okay. Codes were now passing. As we mentioned earlier, this was a relatively straightforward diagnosis on a diesel that could be done by a drivability technician that usually works on gasoline engines. We hope this episode of Technician's Toolbox will be helpful to you, and be sure to tune in next week for another episode.